Okay, so today I am doing my April 2024 TBR. Before we do, just a couple of notes to begin with, because otherwise the TBR is not going to make sense, at least not to me. So first of all, want to apologize for the lack of reading vlogs this month. The reason that there weren't so many reading vlogs wasn't necessarily because I didn't have the time to do them, but more the fact that I got through my March TBR incredibly quickly. I think I got through my March TBR within like 2.5 weeks, and so still had a whole lot of time left, and decided to jump right into my April TBR. And just so you know, I'm currently reading my second book in my April TBR, and I'm recording this on the 29th of March. So, I mean, I'm going to have that done too. So, yeah, it is what it is. I had a shorter TBR. I only had 10 books, so once I finish the book I'm currently reading, that's 12. But because of that, as I am someone that's very organized and have my first 11 months of the year TBRs mapped out already, I was in a bit of a flummox. I had no idea what to do and decided not to do reading vlogs, but also it was going to affect my April TBR because I'd already taken 2 books from my April TBR, and trust me, if I had more time, I would have taken 3. It was a good reading month. But anyway, so what I decided to do was pull 3 books from my May TBR, the first 3 books I would have read in May, and add them onto my April TBR. Now, the reason I'm saying 3 to make 12 books in total is because this book, Savage, which is Ravaged World number 3 by Ian Rob Wright, I will not be reading. I was originally planning to read this month, but as most of you may recall me saying, something happened with the audiobooks of books 1 and 2 of the Ravaged World trilogy. Ian Rob Wright has responded to me personally and told me that they're redoing the audiobooks as we speak. Once they are available, I will chuck books 1, 2, and 3 onto that month's TBR and get through all of them at once. But because I would not be able to read this one, because I haven't read the other 2 yet, this one, funny enough, is available on Audible. It's the other 2 that aren't. That would bring me down to a total of 9 books for April originally. So adding 3 brings me to 12. And now let's talk about those 12 books. Okay. The first book that I plan to read in the month of April 2024 is my first book in my new dystopian series. Yay! I love dystopians, and I hope you do too. For me, for a dystopian to be good, the author has to do amazing world building. They really need to build up this world. Tell me why this world has, come into the whole mass of chaos and become completely unsettled and is ruled by a tyrant. How did we get here? And how are we going to try and solve it? And what are the obstacles that are going to be in the way to try and solve that? A dystopian done really well is a really enjoyable read for me. One example I can give you is The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. I read this in my first year on BookTube in 2020, and I absolutely love that book. Another example is the entire Selection series by Kiera Cass, and another example I will give you is the Divergent trilogy by Veronica Roth. Mainly the first and second one, not so much the third one. We'll let that one go. But yeah, I love my dystopians. Last year I read 2 dystopian series. I didn't like either of them, to be totally honest. They were average reads. So I'm hoping this one will be good. And that first book in this series is this book, Red Queen, which ironically is book number 1 in the, you guessed it, Red Queen series. So this is a YA dystopian. It looks like it's a YA dystopian fantasy. So definitely a dystopian, but there will be some fantasy elements that pop up here and there. Looks like magic has come up as another sub-genre in this one. So yeah, I mean, I love my fantasy anyway, so the fact that this is a dystopian world where magic exists makes me even happier. I've heard a lot of good things. No spoilers, which is fantastic, but a lot of good things about this series, so I am looking forward to getting right on into it. Alright, the next book that I plan to read in April of 2024 is a book that's going to help me to close out a series that I started. I think I started this in 2020 or 2021. Okay, there's confirmation. I read the first book in this series in July of 2020, and it's only a trilogy, but I'm finally closing it out. That is this book, King's Rising by C.S. Packard. This is book number 3, the final book in the Captive Prince series. This is oh goodness, one moment. This is an adult LGBTIQ plus fantasy. They add romance in there. I would not say it's romantic, at least not the first 2 books. But yeah, it's been an interesting series all in all. It's taken me a lot longer to get through than I expected. I was thinking at the time when I read the first one in July of 2020 that I was going to complete the series by the end of 2020. And yeah, I struggled to get through book 1 more than I thought. Not physically, like it was easy to read the words. It was the plot itself. It was quite challenging for me to get through that plot because there were things that occurred that I did not expect. There were moments of, I'll just say the word violence that occurred in the book that I was not prepared for in 2020. Had I read it these days, it would have been a different story. But, back then, I was new to the whole, branching out into different realms of fantasy and LGBTIQ plus books. So yeah, it's taken me a while to get there, but I'm finally reading this final book, and then I'll be able to successfully close out the series. The next book that I'm going to read is a book that's, speaking of, there's a great saying in life. Whenever we close a door, somewhere we open a window. Well, whenever we close out a series here at Mr. Francy, somewhere we're opening up a new series. That's exactly what's happening after I finish King's Rising and will cross off the Captive Prince trilogy off my SAS list. The next book I'll pick up is the start of a new series for me, and that is this book, Dead End Detective by Amanda Flower. This is book number 1 of 2 in the Piper and Porter duology mystery series. It is an adult cozy mystery, and I'm really excited to get into this book. I have a goal to fill an entire shelf on one of my bookshelves with nothing but Amanda Flower books, and this book is going to help me to get there. I'm really intrigued to see how this is going to go. I'm a little bit concerned because there are only 2 books in this series, and there's no third one, so why is there no third one? Why is there only 2? Time will tell. But hey, the only thing I know is that this is set, I believe, in a funeral home, I think. I don't want to read too many things, but I think it's set in a funeral home. I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to spoil myself, so I'm not gonna check spoilers. I like going in completely blind, in case you didn't know. But anyway, yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into it and seeing how this one does go. I've read many of Amanda Flower's series. In no particular order, I've read her Magic Bookshop mystery series, her Magic Garden mystery series. I've read half of her Amish Matchmaker mystery series, and I have read every single one, including novellas, of the Amish Candy Shop series as well. So it's nice to get into a new Amanda Flower series. Oh, and also, I am currently reading the Farm to Table series, so I have to wait for that Cherry Pits, the 4th book, to come out on audio. When it does, I'll read that and complete that series as well. So yeah, I have read a lot of Amanda Flower books, and I love Amanda Flower as a person and as an author, and I'm looking forward to getting into a new series of hers. We may need to try and speed things along because I've already taken this long just to say 3 books. So the next book that I'm going to read is going to help me to get closer to closing out a series, and that is this book, How to Save a Human, which is book number 4 in the VRC Vampire-Related Crimes series by Alice Winters. This is marketed as an adult male romance, vampires, paranormal, and it goes on. And that's basically what it is. We have these 2 police officer detective teams. One is human, one is vampire. Someone from the human detective police officer team joins the vampire team to help the vampires solve the vampire side of vampire-related crimes. That was a mouthful. And so the first 2 books we follow that particular person. Then in the 3rd book we follow someone else. And this is the 4th book. So yeah, I've loved this series so much. This will be the 2nd last book, and I'm really looking forward to getting into it. The next book that I plan to read is a completely new series for me that I was going to hold off reading until 2025. But again, to go back to that saying, when a door is closed somewhere, a window opens somewhere else. I DNF'd the Coffee House Mystery Series by Cleo Coyle for many and varying reasons, but moving on, because I did, that created a massive space for another series because I had at least 10 more books to read in that series that I'd already mapped out on my TBR, so I was looking for something to replace it. And of course, I wanted it to be a cozy mystery series, and every time I see this series, I think I have to read this series. It just looks way too fun not to. So, the first book in this new series for me is called Starboard Secrets. It is book number 1 in the Cruise Ship Mystery Series by Hope Callahan. Yes. Okay. Anyway, it's an adult cozy mystery. I am really intrigued. I don't know a lot about it. As I say, I love going into my books blind, but I feel like it's going to be a crossover between Love Boat and Murder, She Wrote. And I'm like really, really excited. Set on a ship, set on a cruise. It's very different for me. And I'm very, very excited. I hope it doesn't let me down because I know I say that I'm excited to read a lot of the books that I have on my TBR. And that's because I am. But I'm really, really, really excited for this one because it looks like it'll be so much fun. So I really hope it doesn't disappoint me. I'm going to be having book 2 arriving in the next 2 days. So I really hope that book 1 doesn't annoy me. But yeah, this just looks like it's going to be a whole lot of fun, an absolute blast. So I can't wait to get into that one. If you want to buddy read this with me, let me know because I just have the feeling it's going to be a whole lot of fun. I really hope I'm right. Fingers crossed because it looks fun. Look at that cover. It looks fun. All right. Okay. So the next 3 books on my TBR are all part of the same series. That is the Campers and Criminals series by Tonya Kappas. I'm doing a buddy read of this over on my Discord, and we are having a blast talking about reading this series. So if you want to join us, please feel free to do so. Each of these books are 200 pages roughly or less, so they're very quick to get through. That's why we put 3 on the TBR. If they were longer, we'd probably only do 1 a month. But anyway, it is the Campers and Criminals series, and I love it, love it, love it. It took me a moment, I'll admit. It took me a couple of books to find my footing, to settle into the series, but now I am very settled, and in the words of our protagonist in the series, Mae West's brother, Bobby, I am enjoying my time with Maybelline. Her name is Mae West, but her brother calls her Maybelline. Oh, this is a wonderful, wonderful series, and I am up to book number 14. So the next book I'll read is this book, Eggnog, Extortion, and Evergreens, because Tonya Kappas loves her alliteration. It is fanciful when you have alliteration for each title, but something that's been discussed on my Discord with this buddy read, which I think is a good point, is that the titles aren't memorable when you do alliteration for every single one. But yeah, anyway, so this one has all the E's in it, Eggnog, Extortion, and Evergreens. And one thing I realized just before I started this video is, oh my goodness, eggnog, it must be Christmas. And then you can see on the cover, there's a Christmas tree. They've already done a Christmas book in this series, and I loved that one so much. So I can't wait to get into another Christmas one in Campers and Criminals. I love my Christmas books. Therefore, the next one I'm planning to read is Ropes, Riddles, and Robberies, book number 15. By the way, these are all adult cozy mysteries. Book number 15 in the Campers and Criminals series. And then the book I plan to read after that one is Paddlers, Promises, and Poison, which is book number 16 in that series as well. I like that. Purple Caravan. There you go. You know, I realized something, very quick side note. I mainly listen to audiobooks, but I do still buy the physical books for so many reasons. 2 of them being, 1, I like to support the author in every way I can. So if I purchase the physical book, then they get some royalties, and that's great, but I also have the physical, tangible memories on my bookshelves. One thing I realized is that the spine of each of these physical books is 1 centimeter. By the time I get through this entire series, which I plan to do this year, it is going to fill or overflow a single shelf on my bookshelves, which is fantastic. A whole shelf is just going to be Campers and Criminals, but there we go. All right, let's move on. The next book that I'm planning on reading in the month of April 2024 would have originally been the final book on my April TBR, but remember, I've added 3. So originally, the final book that I was planning on reading was this book, 5 Go to Smuggler's Top by Enid Blyton. This is book number 4 in the famous 5 series. It is a middle grade classic. Sorry, I had to think there. And yeah, really fun series. There's 21 books in the in this particular series. There we are. Sorry, just confirm that. There are 21. Yes, I am right. 21 books in this series. I'm going into this series this year. I plan to get through the entire series by the end of the year. I'm going into the series having read about 5 of the 21, and this is one I have not read yet. So I'm intrigued to see how this one will go. And now on to the 3 bonus books, and I just want to make a point here. If I do not get through all of these books, or if I don't get through any of the books, either way, then they will just be transferred onto my May TBR where they were originally meant to be. So there's no pressure to read all 12 books. I would like to get through the first 9 books that were originally on my April TBR, but if I don't get through books 10, 11, and 12, or if I don't get through 1 or 2 of them, that's absolutely fine. I will just push them back over to the May TBR. But anyway, here are the bonus books that I wasn't initially going to read in April, but because of reasons that we went into earlier on, I now am. So, the next book that I plan to read is this book, Glass Sword by Victoria Aveyard. This is the second book in the Red Queen series. How many books are there in this series? 4. There are 4 books. So, if I read every book this month that is on my TBR, then I will be halfway through the Red Queen series by the end of April. There you go. So again, this is a YA dystopian. Remember I was saying earlier, there's some fantasy and magic also included in the series. Yeah, very much looking forward to it. How amazing is that going to be to read 2 Red Queen books and really get my dystopian feel? I don't know how I feel about this book because I haven't read book 1, so it feels weird, like saying, oh, I'm excited or I'm not or whatever. I don't know. I need to read book 1 and then I'll tell you how I feel going into book 2. Keep an eye out for our weekly reading vlog. Hopefully next month I will just go back to doing my usual reading vlogs and then I can tell you how I feel going into Glass Sword. Alright, the next book that I plan to read is a finally situation. This is a book that was released in 2020. To be exact, it was released in March of 2020, and I have heard about this book since it was published in 2020, and I've been saying to myself, Mr. Francy, you gotta put this book on your TBR, and then 2020 went by, it did not go on my TBR, 2021 went by, it did not go on my TBR, 2022 went by, it did not go on my TBR, 2023 went by, and it did not go on my TBR, and heck me, it is definitely going on my TBR in 2024. It's about time. I cannot wait to read so many good things. It is called The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. I know that there's a book 2 that is either about to be released or has been released, which is fantastic. But anyone that has picked up this book that I have seen a BookTube review, I don't remember what it's about. So I've seen reviews, but I honestly do not remember the plot at all, so that's good for me because I like to go in blind. But any BookTube review, any Goodreads review, any review of this, that, the other kind have all been extremely positive. So I really cannot wait to get into this book. Now, this is marketed as a young adult and also adult, but young adult comes first, so we're going to call it young adult. It's a young adult fantasy, and there's LGBT. Ooh, LGBT rap, nice, is a side genre. But YA fantasy. Excellent. I am really looking forward to this. If this book is going to give me all the feels like y'all had when y'all did your reviews back in the day when the book came out, it's going to make me incredibly happy. So, yes, I can genuinely say I'm excited about this one. And I really hope it doesn't let me down because this is a hype train that I'm literally picking up because everyone just seems to love it and it makes them happy. So I hope it makes me happy too. Time will tell. But wait, there's still one more. And if you thought it was interesting that if I read every single book that I plan to read in April, would be halfway through the Red Queen series by the end of the month, then just wait, till you find out what the final book is I'm going to read in April. Because it is going to help me to close out a series that, get this, I started, yes ma'am, in April. And that is this book, Frozen Detective by Amanda Flower, which is book number 2 of 2 in the Piper and Porter mystery series. Yeah, it was the very next book. I read my books in page count order, and so Famous 5 is always the last book that I read each month. So I went with the highest amount of page counts for my May TBR, and obviously that was the Glass Sword book, then House in the Cerulean Sea, and now Frozen Detective. And yeah, so if I finish all 12 books, I will not only start the Piper and Porter mystery series in April, but I'll also finish the Piper and Porter mystery series in April. And I've never had a month where I've started and finished a series in the 1 month. So that could be very, very interesting. But there you go. Those are the 12 books on my TBR for April of 2024. So once again, just to reiterate, because I got through my March TBR incredibly quickly, I ended up reading, I will by the end of March have read 2 extra books, the first 2 books on my May TBR, because I'm not reading the Ravaged World book that I was meant to read in my April TBR because I'm waiting on the audiobooks from Ian Rob Wright to come back out again. That left me with 3 books to make it up to 12, and that's why we're adding those 3. However, the terms and conditions are as follows. My goal is to get through the first 9. From there, everything else is a bonus. If there is 1 or more books in the bonus section that I don't get to by the end of April, then I'll just simply place it back onto my May TBR where it was originally. Okay, that was a mouthful. Quite a few mouthfuls in this one, but I am... yeah, very excited to get through everything. I hope that you all are enjoying your reading at the moment. I certainly am. My gosh, I have a lot to update you all on. So I look forward to seeing you all in my next video where I'm going to be doing my March monthly wrap and talking about all the books that I read in the month of March, which was just a reading palooza month for me. But I hope you all have been reading some amazing, amazing books. And if you want to recommend any books to me, down in the comments is definitely the place to do it. Or come along and join our Discord. Link to the Discord is in the description. Come along over there and recommend books to me as well. I'm a very eclectic reader, just to give you an example in case you didn't know. I do love my cozy mysteries. I'm planning to have an entire bookshelf filled with cozies by, well, as soon as I can. But aside from cozies, I read dystopians, I read fantasies, I read paranormals, I read horrors, I read thrillers, I read LGBTIQ+, I read sci-fi, I read contemporaries, I read memoirs. So, I mean, I think aside from westerns, I don't think there's anything that I don't read. So, if there's something you want to recommend to me, please feel free to do so. I would love to hear what you have to say, and I would love to see what books were some of your favourite that you have been reading so far in March. Well, it's probably April by the time you're listening to this, but it's March at the time that I'm recording. So hello to future. Hello to April. I hope everyone's having a good April so far. All right, everyone, that is where I am going to leave it. And as always, I'm going to let you all go with peace, blessings, and so much love. Please do be kind and love one another and spread that sparkling energy of yours all throughout the world, because gosh knows at any moment the world can do with more positivity. So inject some positivity into the universe today. And I will see you again next time. Letting you all go and see you soon. Mwah. Bye everyone. Happy reading.